Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Operation Agency Freedom. My name is Chris Martinez, and of course, I am your host for today. And in my day job, I am also the CEO and founder of Bloom, where we work with marketing agencies and provide management consulting and technology to increase profit, maximize your agency's value, unlock your potential, and achieve an eight-figure exit. And today, I have, for the second time, Josh Crouch from Relentless Digital is on the show today. He's going to be talking about a massive milestone that they hit, let's say it was like a week or two ago. They have a very, very popular podcast in their niche, and that podcast just reached 2 million downloads. You heard that right. 2 million downloads. That means 2 million people heard this man's lovely songboard voice. And of course, we know that that translates into revenue for the business. So, welcome to the show, Josh. Good to see you again. Good to catch up. It's been a while.
Yeah, likewise, Chris. I always enjoy chatting with you, regardless of what it's about. I think we just have a lot of personality similarities with some
Yeah.
of the stuff we enjoy outside of business and everything else. So I'm glad to be back. And I think this is something that just by posting some of this stuff recently, definitely see more questions
Hmm?
people coming with questions and things that they're trying to figure out because it is still, it's funny, podcasts have been around for a while now,
Yeah.
and they're definitely had a boom the last probably since COVID, really a boom, but turning it into its own business
Right.
and figuring out what that looks like because there are a lot of companies that are starting to invest in, they call it their influencer marketing budget. I will never
Mhm.
like that term for myself, but they're starting to put towards budgets with podcasts or people that have a video following, I don't know what the word is, a following on social media. So those things can be really great to side income, another business, more like it just opens up other doors that
Right.
when I started the marketing company, I didn't think these existed. So
Right.
it's all new stuff for us, and we just keep trying to figure out what's next.
So, like I started my podcast, I want to say it was right before the pandemic. Maybe it was 2019 when I started my podcast. And my selfish reason for wanting to do it is because I wanted to meet these influencers in the digital marketing space. And I thought I could develop relationships with them and then they would one day become referral partners. And, since then, we've completely shifted the focus. I met pretty much every single guru in digital marketing. And then I restarted the podcast. I think I took about a year off. I restarted the podcast and then just started having more guests as well as doing more solo episodes. I have not yet reached 2 million downloads, right? So I guess the first question that probably most people have for you is like, how in the world did you get that reach? Because obviously it didn't happen overnight. This is something that's been building over time.
Yeah. So let me preface it with this. So I have a co-host. He started the show back in 2017.
Okay.
Okay. So way before I even had a little starry gaze of starting Relentless Digital, before it was even a pipe dream, he had a podcast that was serving the same audience that we serve as a digital marketing company. And we became friends mostly through social media. And then we were a part of the same coaching group. I was an employee at the time. He was an owner. We met and did some workshops out in New Jersey where the coaching organization was.
Mhm.
So that's where we kind of bonded even further. And then once I started Relentless Digital, I started asking him questions because he's the only one that I knew that had a somewhat successful. I didn't know who to ask as far as podcasts. Like, hey, what gear do I need? What platforms?
Oh,
All
yeah.
the questions. Like you got to figure out all this stuff yourself. It's like Greek until
Right.
you learn it.
Right.
So at the time, so he had the show for about 4 years before I joined. I joined in May of 2021. So it's been
Okay.
about almost 3.5 years, probably by the time people are listening to this. And so we were averaging, I think he was averaging like 6 to 8,000, 10,000 downloads a month on a good month. And it would ebb and
In
flow with
in revenue from the podcast.
no in just
Oh,
downloads.
downloads. I would shoot. I
So
mean, still 6 to 10,000 a month is that's good.
yeah, so he was doing everything: audio editing, video editing, getting it published in other places, all the podcast catchers. He was doing all of it. Chris, I know you've worked with me a lot. Like I love buying back my time.
Yeah, for sure.
So he was getting burnt out because it's a lot of work to do all this stuff yourself. Like it is
Mhm.
a tremendous amount of work. So he wanted, because I was on the marketing side, come in, just help me with the podcast. You do the marketing stuff. So obviously, I mean, this goes into like just super small details. Like he had a Facebook group with, I don't know, like 1,500 people, but it was never capturing an email address. So we were never getting those people back into a newsletter so we could resend them the podcast episode when a new one
Right.
released and keep them
Right. Right.
engaged. everything we were doing. So it's obviously been like, 3.5 years. You can make a lot of progress in 3.5 years, but we've turned it into its own business. About 2 years ago, we started having our first sponsor. We had a very popular CRM in the space reach out to us about sponsorship. And we actually went with a different CRM that we just get along with the business owner better. Their
Hmm.
customer service is way better. They just have a better reputation that way. And since then, we have 6 partners and sponsors, and we have people reaching out to us almost on the weekly, which it's a whole different conversation of like we have to be very careful. Like we don't want to look like a NASCAR.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to be very careful of like pissing partners off and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, but it's absolutely possible. But you have to. I think a lot of times the podcast, especially from an agency perspective, it gets treated as just a lead source for your main business. So it's
Exactly.
like your side chick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, hopefully I'm not offending anybody to say that. I'm not trying to like say that's but we treat
Brittany's
it like
gonna Brittany's gonna call in and she's like, "What did he just say?" No. No.
they treat it like a side thing. Like it's okay, I'm doing this so I can, get in front of client, and that's the sole purpose, get leads.
Exactly.
We actually, because it is its own separate thing, Relentless Digital is mentioned in like a footer note, but I don't even mention it on the show. I mean, if we talk about digital marketing, I'll mention what we do or our
Mhm.
clients' stories or something, but I don't even really mention it. Now, that's probably not the best advice I can give you, but it's what's worked for us because what we wanted to do is make sure that our podcast, people know they can trust the
Yeah.
information and it's not just a pitch.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, because an agency owner, in any business owner, start a podcast, but the folks like, I need more leads. I want to get more leads instead of the content. The content is what is the most important thing because people will figure out who you are if they want to. Focusing on great content, great guests, and like anything else in life, and it's the most boring advice ever. But honestly, the most boring advice is usually the best. It's consistency.
Consistency. Yeah.
It just continuously doing the same things and trying to make it 1% better every single time. And that's what we've done. It's taken us a while to even we finally just had the show for 7 years. I've been on for 3.5. We finally hired a podcast manager to manage our schedules and our events and all of these other things. So yeah, it's been a journey, but it continues to grow. And we haven't even started running ads, video view ads, to just get better, more exposure. Like there's so many things we can do if you treat it like a business, which I know not everyone can do, but if you start treating it like that, it opens up additional doors and you can maybe diversify some income and not like always have to rely on new clients.
So I want to talk about when you were saying like most people start the podcast because they want to get more leads, right? Like I know that wasn't your initial focus, but that is a residual benefit of having the podcast. Can you talk about how having the podcast and having the reach has actually benefited you guys with Relentless?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we've noticed is on the sales side, people see us everywhere, either myself or the brand, because obviously we're like the hat and stuff. They see us everywhere. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. I was on a call this morning with someone for cold email, and we were talking about omni-channel presence and just being everywhere that
Mhm.
somebody could potentially look for someone. And let's face it, video views in 2024 is where it's at. Like if you're not on video doing something, even if it's
Yeah.
your own videos and not a podcast, people just probably they won't pay attention as much. Videos,
Right.
they don't comment, they don't like, they don't do anything. They see it and it will show up at the end of the day because I really like what you have to say, even though they'll never like. Can you please comment on my videos so I can get more engagement? Please, like, do
Yeah.
something, like hit a button so I can get more engagement. Because sometimes I'll look through and I'm like, oh, there's no engagement on that one. I don't know if maybe I should do that video next time.
Right. Right. Right.
People see it, and that shows up when it comes to finding leads because they might be in a contract, and then when the contract's up, they'll give you an opportunity because they know who you are and they trust and like who you are as a person.
Yeah. So I just had this conversation yesterday with a guy who's the head of SEO at a Fortune 500 company, right? It's a B2C company.
Does he need a
Uh,
job? Because I need to have.
I don't know. I mean, I can ask him. So, anyways, we started talking about the future of SEO, and I reached out to him because AI. He's like, I'm doing a lot of stuff with AI. It's crazy. I'm like, okay, well, this is somebody who has. I don't want to say an unlimited budget, but he has a very large budget to just kind of play. So we jumped on a call yesterday, and we were kind of talking about what the future of SEO looks like and what he's most excited about. And he said, think about, or what he said was that the way that people are making their buying decisions is very, very different than what it was, even 5 years ago. And this plays into a marketing, like overall changes that we're seeing in marketing, but it kind of proves to me why a podcast like what you have is so beneficial. So essentially, what my friend told me is that people are making their buying decisions and their search results, like what they type into Google, is being influenced by what they see in media. So the analogy that we came up with is it's kind of, I don't know if this somebody's going to consider this crude. You see a reality show with Kim Kardashian, and she's talking about this new procedure that she had done on her butt, right? And so people see the show, which is entertainment, right? They're not trying to sell you really anything. She's talking about this butt procedure that she gets done, and then they're like, "Wow, Kim Kardashian did that. That's really interesting." And that plants the seed. And now they go to Google and they type in what was Kim Kardashian's butt procedure. And then that travels down another rabbit hole. And then they find the procedure. And then maybe they find the doctor and maybe they look for a doctor that's in their
Guess
area.
videos they're going to see on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram.
Exactly.
Videos of somebody getting this procedure done because it's all.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what kind of his point was, or I came up with this analogy actually. I said it's almost like you go and you watch TV and then you get the idea and then Google, or yeah, like a Google search is essentially the yellow pages, right? So like you get the idea from some other place, TV, newspaper, whatever, and then when you go to search, you're looking at the news, you're looking at the yellow pages in the phone book. So if you really want to get ahead, you have to focus on the media side of it so that you're kind of implanting ideas into your listeners and also, of course, grabbing attention. And that's why I think that the podcast that you guys have, obviously, you're monetizing it on the ad side, but for the agency side of it, just creating great content, I am seeing this pattern where agencies that are really thriving right now, because a lot of them are suffering, the ones that are really thriving, they have this media component that you guys own. What do you think about that?
I think it's absolutely true. So another point of this is, especially, and again, this comes with consistency. Like anyone can start a podcast and then they think they're going to get invited to industry events and speak on stage just because they created a podcast, but they don't trust you yet. So that consistency, that showing up every day, every week, consistently doing these things, consistently making them better. Great example. So our travel schedule, like literally next week is like the next 5 or 6 weeks, I'm like barely home now. I don't necessarily love that, but because I like being home. But we're going to one event that I'm not a partner of with Relentless Digital, but I get to talk to people at that event, and they have great clients, so they get to see us. They'll disperse the content, so they get to know the name and just kind of get in our ecosystem. We're literally flying out the day after that to another event, which we get the podcast all day at, which again, we're going to get really great guests. Like you're talking like the keynote speakers, the breakout presenters, the people that everybody comes to see at these events, we get access to them. So like one of the events we're talking to John Formica, who was I can't remember his title because Disney's always got like crazy titles, but he was like in charge of their customer journey and customer experience at Disney for a long time. So like people I would never cross paths with, we're able to bring that content to the trade so that way they can get a different perspective. The week after that, we're speaking at a main stage about AI and automation in the trades. A couple weeks after that, we're running the podcast stage. And then we're also part of some panels about podcasting and AI and automation because that's the stuff we like talking about.
Yeah.
That spawned another business because that's things that we really like and people really gravitate towards. We started another business, which is a course for AI and automation. And that's got its own thing going on. It's opened up doors because of the feedback and because of the things that we see that people want from the content we create. So it's stuff that I would like, there's no grand plan. Like this stuff is literally like, as it happens, we're building it and like, let's do it. And I think being open to saying yes to opportunities, which can be really scary, especially if you're the only host of the show. For me, I feel like it's a little easier because I have a co-host. We can bounce ideas off of each other. But when you're the person, I think sometimes that can be because you have to do everything.
Yeah, of course.
Hirsch and I had each other for some stuff. There's things that I know he's good at. There's things that he knows I'm good at. And then for the other stuff, we're starting to hire for that, like production. Right. He doesn't have to deal with any production anymore because we have sponsors. We have money come in. Production's taken care of. That means we know great quality videos, shorts, blog posts, syndicating that stuff. It all happens. So email newsletters once a week. It happens without me even really having any input anymore. But you create that ecosystem. It just, no matter where anyone is, they're seeing our stuff. If they get on our list, they're seeing it somewhere.
Yeah. It's recording the podcast is actually easy. It's all the stuff that comes after that. That's the
Yeah,
hard part. And that's the
I would
time
definitely
consuming.
say like we're doing here. It's on Zoom, but I know you chop it up into little clips
Yeah.
and stuff. Use StreamYard. There's Restream. There's other platforms. I would highly recommend a video platform, not just audio, because audio is great for the downloads and the people that want to listen. But there's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
Oh yeah.
TikTok. You can search.
100% you have to have a video podcast as well as the
Oh
audio
yeah.
version. Yeah,
I would never go without a video podcast because this can get chopped up into so many things. And then
exactly.
if a video does really well organically, run ads to it, run
Hmm.
video views. Just hey, find a Facebook audience or a group that you want to get into, or maybe your listeners are all HVAC businesses, but you want to get into plumbing. We'll find some plumbing groups, create an audience, run the video views to them, and warm them up.
Yeah.
And that's where the exponential opportunities exist. Is it's easy once you have a show and you have something that's starting to build momentum of
Hmm.
growing it, because there's so many ways. Because a lot of the content, even if it's agency thing, I learned stuff about businesses that I bring to my agency, because there's a lot of fundamental things that are the same across all businesses. And sometimes those ideas are just outside of the normal realm of what you talk about on a daily basis. And it really sparks an idea.
So there's somebody that's listening to this, Josh, and they've been on the fence about starting a podcast forever, right? It's been years because, like people have known or heard that they should start a podcast years ago. And it's that, looking at it and be like, oh man, it's going to take so long. I'm not going to get anywhere. And, you do have to have some discipline and basically just stick with it to have that consistency. Is there, knowing where you're at now, 2 million downloads later, are there any things that you've seen that can help accelerate the growth of your podcast?
I mean, honestly, besides some of the stuff we talked about being omni-channel,
Mhm.
which I know creates a lot of extra work for someone that's on the fence. So we always okay. I won't say always because we have a recording on Friday this week, but most of the time Wednesday is our recording day. So
Okay.
we have a time block that is always podcast time, and I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do is like block out an hour for the recording, block out maybe even if it's only 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after, to do something marketing specific for your podcast. Email out the latest episode, post on social media, post on your personal page about your podcast so people pay attention to it. Just do something and just start there. It will pick up traction because people love podcasts. Because one, I can go for a walk, I can turn
Oh
it on
yeah.
Spotify, I don't have to watch it. I can just listen
Oh,
and
I
I can
do
go
that all the time. I'm in the gym. I'm listening to a podcast or a book all the time.
and people in our industry, and this isn't the same for every industry, but they're in the van driving to the next job. They want to learn in between instead of just listening to music or AM radio. They want to learn something valuable to grow their business. Perfect time for podcasts. Like they love it. And it's grown tremendously. Like there is a ton of podcasts in our space now. And I wouldn't let that what I just said about a lot of podcasts in your space, because there probably already is. Don't let it derail you because everybody has something to say. I would just let your personality shine in the podcast. Don't be someone you're not.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If you cuss a lot, just have a podcast where that's you. Like if you don't, or if you're funny or witty or you're serious, whatever it is, just be you, because that's what people gravitate towards, and then they feel like they know you. That's the
Yeah.
same with any video content, right? That's why video content is so powerful. Is I get to see the who behind the name and the resume that we put online. I actually get to, hey, does this seem like someone I actually want to work with? Do they seem like they have my core values? Do they seem like they're a good person? Show those things through how you talk and how you engage with people. Don't script unless you really suck at asking questions. Don't script the podcast. I know some people will live and swear by that, but I told you before we got on, because you're like, yeah, I have some questions in mind, but it's not really scripted. We don't script anything. Like I know like the gist of what we're talking about, but that is literally it. We don't set up pre-meetings. We don't plan anything. It's just like we talk.
Yeah.
And we just have that, and people love it because it's like they're a fly on the wall to a conversation that they were not already privy to.
Yeah.
And they appreciate like being able to sit in and listen to like the intimate stuff.
Yeah. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why Joe Rogan's podcast is so successful is it's just two dudes or three people just talking. I
That's
will
all.
say that when you're starting out and if you're nervous, here's my like tips for starting a podcast. If you're nervous, it can be beneficial to have, maybe 3 to 5 questions that are written down, but don't feel like you have to just look at the questions because on the interviewee side, it's kind of a crappy experience when they can tell you're not listening to them and that you're just reading off of the script. It's kind of the same with salespeople, right? So like you have a needs analysis with a new salesperson, they'll just read the questions. What's really the magic happens when you're listening to the answers. So if you're new and you're kind of nervous about, like write down like maybe 3 to 5, kind of keep those there because there will be some guests that are boring and you have to go back and like find a question to ask
Ready
them.
for that because there are guests that are like, you get done with the conversation, you're like, "Whoa, that
Yeah.
was tough."
Yeah.
And obviously, the people that usually reach out, like once you realize we're in a different space now, like on the Apple charts for business management, we're regularly top 10 to 20. So we get guests that come to us that are like really like they know they're seasoned veterans. You're not going to find that always in the beginning. There's conversations that are like, man, I don't even know if I want to air that one because it was like really dry and it
Yeah.
was a pit. I think I would also make sure that any guests you have on, especially like if let's say they're your ideal client as an agency, obviously they're not selling anything. So you don't have to worry about that. They're just telling their story, which that is honestly probably one of the easiest things to start with.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are vendors or people that like they start seeing what you're doing and they ask to get on the show. You have to preface it with, we'll give your links and stuff in the show notes. You can mention, in your bio or your intro, who you are, where you're from, but it is not a pitch fest. Like you need to bring value to the show or you will not be on, or you will not be invited back.
Yeah.
And I
For
think if
sure.
you set that precedence, people want to give it. People love helping people. Like there's very few people that don't want to help somebody in need because that's what they're in business for.
Yeah. I agree.
So I think if you preface it with that it will be very impactful and you'll get much better experiences
Mhm.
because we've had guests like that and we're like, yeah, I don't think we're going to air that episode because it was all like, hey, this is what this platform can do. And this is how this platform helps. It's like, what if they don't want to use your platform and they need a solution that is related to your platform?
Right.
How can it help? What should they be looking for? What questions should they ask? And then they'll decide, your podcast episode will help them kind of push over the edge. But it's been great. Like we did one about social media and honestly, it's almost surreal because I don't realize even the reach that the podcast has. The gal that we did that episode with reached out to me from Australia, reach out to her because they listened to the show. And I'm just like, it blew my mind. So I'm thinking, I'm like, you're in your bubble. You think you're like in this little space and then you hear other countries are listening to your show. I'm like, obviously I don't know who these people are, but something about the show sparked them to want to listen and it just grows from there. And then they send it to their office staff and they tag their people in the comments. And it's really cool what it can become because we didn't try to make it this way. It just,
Yeah.
we did the work and it grew because we did the work. It's kind of like the really stupid, simple way of putting it, but we focused on it.
Yeah. I love it. Last question. When you have a podcast that's got some good reach and sponsors are approaching you, how do you price that out? Is it based on like a per download or you just kind of pull it out of thin air or like do they come to you and give you a price? How does that work?
So we have a one sheet that we put some of our top level stats with like video views and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then we just have 3 packages, just like we do for the marketing agency side. We have packages and we've customized a little bit here and there, but typically we're giving like post read, pre-roll ads, mid-roll ads, and post-roll ads, just like almost like you do hear on the radio, like when the person you're listening on the radio, just all of a sudden it's like they're talking, all of a sudden it's like an ad. And you're like, I didn't even realize it was an ad. It's kind of the same thing. Social media stuff. That's why having a newsletter and trying to build an email audience is so important too, because now their links are in every single email. That's why it's important to have a blog post because then now you can put their links and they get backlinks, which
Right.
they might not be looking for the backlinks, but their link is in the show notes every single time.
Right.
Tracking parameters with some of the really like Bitly and some of the other really cheap tools. So they can track the links and they see the traffic. Like we have one partner that, now to be fair, they don't do a really good job of promoting themselves. They're awesome people. Like 30% of their website traffic comes from us.
Wow.
And that's what they told us. So you don't even realize the impact you're having in big companies. Like Company Cam in our industry is huge. They got like 40,000 contractors on their platform. CallRail has come to us. They're a partner. Like these aren't like mom and pop trying to like, yeah, and they're happy. They love what they're seeing, but they're putting money towards influencer budget. And that's just literally one opportunity. There's tons of call tracking softwares. There's tons of CRMs. There's tons of everything out there in every industry. There's probably someone looking like right now, AI technology, we get hit up about that stuff all the time. Like AI voice products, AI chatbots, AI anything. And we have to kind of like gatekeep. We're at the point where we're at the gatekeep, which is a great place to be. But
Yeah.
to put together pricing, we just put together a package and this is what you get.
Is it somewhat related to the number of downloads? Because eventually you're going to raise your rates.
So we, based on our numbers, we have raised our rates over the last couple of years. Our top package used to be about 5,000. It's now 10.
Nice.
So our lowest one is 5 now, and it's because this show keeps growing, and we have plans to keep growing it. And we're starting to run Facebook ads to an audience, and just again expand the reach. Because if we expand our reach, that expands the reach of our partners,
Right.
because their links are in everything, their hashtags are in every post. Like they also get the benefit of that, and they don't have to go pay for ads. And it's being a podcast host, they typically, if somebody likes your show, they're going to trust your recommendation. With that being said, don't take the first person that throws you money if you don't think they're a good fit for you and your core values.
Yeah.
That is one way to lose trust in an audience extremely fast. That's why we are like very slow at signing partners on. So even though we have 6 partners now, it's taken us, like, we definitely make sure we take our time making that decision. And it's our decision, not like they can come to us, but we are going to say if we're going to let you move forward. And obviously they can pick the package, but we say yes or no. So don't let the first one that's throwing some dollar bills actually be the one that you sign up with if it's not a good fit.
I love that. Awesome advice, Josh. Thank you so much for being on the show. What's the name of your podcast so that everybody can listen?
Yeah, that's probably good, right? It's called Service Business Mastery.
Service Business Mastery with Josh Crouch. And who's their partner on the show?
Yep, Lissette. You can't. He's like Beyonce. Everyone just knows him by Tersh.
Tersh.
Tersh. Yeah, it's short for. So his name is David Blissett the Third, short for tertiary.
Interesting. I would have never guessed that.
Everyone knows him as Tersh.
That's a good nickname.
Yeah, it works out because you say Tersh, everyone's like, it's the only one I know.
Yes. And then, of course, your website, relentlessdigital.com, correct?
Relentless-digital.
Relentless-digital, sorry.
I haven't paid the $3,500 to get the relentlessdigital.com yet. It's on my,
dude.
My end of year to-do list every year, and I just never get around to it.
You better do that now, because somebody's going to go buy it. We're going to have to edit this part of the show out. Yes, you should absolutely buy that URL sooner than later, sir. That'll be well worth the $3,500. I thought you were going to say 35,000. Like,
no, that's just the rate I've seen on GoDaddy, and I'm like, okay, I need to, save on some stuff that we paid Uncle Sam. Maybe that's a good investment. And I just never get around to it. So don't buy and raise the rate on me, please.
I was going to say,
please don't do it. It's already expensive enough, and it's hard for me to justify that cost. So,
well, by the time this comes out, you'll have purchased it. So
we'll see about that.
All right, cool. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk soon. Hey, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you would subscribe to the podcast and also share it with friends, family, and basically anyone you know who will find the same value in this episode as you do. So, to get the latest from me, then let's connect on social media on the Facebooks at facebook.com or Instagram. Then you can also find us on LinkedIn, YouTube. Finally, go to our website where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. Register for live trainings on how to run a highly profitable agency, and you can see exactly how we help marketing agencies fix their operations and scale to 8 figures and beyond. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you next time.